Hi everyone, having discussed phrase structure, in this video we are going to discuss phrasal categories. And this is the outline. So after a little bit of introduction, I'm going to discuss phrasal categories starting from a noun phrase, and then a verb phrase, an adjective phrase, an adverb phrase, and a preposition phrase. So let's get started. Basically, simple sentences like I took a trip to London and it was a very good trip consist of the subject and predicate. So in sentence A, the NPI is the subject and the VP took a trip to London is the predicate. Similarly, in sentence B, the NP it is the subject and the VP was a very good trip is the predicate. In addition to noun phrases and verb phrases, there are other phrases like preposition phrase, adjective phrase, and adverb phrase. We have actually seen these phrases. For example, in sentence A, I took a trip to New York. To New York is a preposition phrase. In sentence B, it was a very good trip. Very good is an adjective phrase, and very is an adverb phrase. In this video, we are going to look at the internal structure of these phrases. Before we start our investigation into the internal structure of the phrases, let me remind you the phrase structure. As illustrated here in this diagram, a phrase always has a head. In addition to its head, it may also have other dependents like specifier, complement, and modifiers. And now we are ready to start our investigation into the internal structure of the phrases, starting with a noun phrase or an NP. For the head of a noun phrase, a noun or a pronoun can serve as a head of the noun phrase. So, car, week, Sam, London, I, and you can be the head of a noun phrase. Next, specifier. The specifier of a noun phrase is the position for a determiner. For example, in the noun phrases like a car, every week, his first car, and every second week, the determiners, which are every, his first, and every second, are at the specifier position. Next, complement. A phrase that can serve as complement of a noun is a preposition phrase. For example, in the noun phrase, modification of our security procedure. The preposition phrase of our security procedure completes the meaning of modification, and so it is the complement of the noun modification. Similarly, in the noun phrases like production of consumer goods, recovery from the operation, and application for a grant, the preposition phrases complete the meaning of the nouns, and they are the complement of the nouns. Next, modifier. What can serve as a modifier of a noun are adjective phrase, verb in the present participle form, verb in the past participle form, preposition phrase, and noun phrase. For example, in the noun phrases like tall trees and dark crowd, the modifiers are tall and dark. In the noun phrases like waiting passengers and baked potato, the modifiers are waiting and baked. In the noun phrases like bicycle for visitors and a hole in the ground, the modifiers are for visitors and in the ground. And in the last one, the second longest river in the world, the Amazon, the modifier is the noun phrase, the Amazon. Next, we are going to look at a verb phrase or a VP. Let's look at the examples here. Cry with frustration, bought a car, showed the policeman his driving license, made her boss angry, and felt hungry. In these verb phrases, the heads are cried, bought, showed, made, and felt. So the head of the verb phrase is the verb. Next, specifier. Let's look at the examples here. Has cried, is crying, has been crying, might cry, might be crying, might have cried. The specifiers in these verb phrases are has been, might be, and might have. So the specifier is the position for auxiliary verbs. Next, complement. Phrases that can serve as complement of a verb include noun phrase and adjective phrase. For example, in the verb phrase bought a car is the complement of the verb bought. And in the verb phrase show the policeman his driving license, the policeman and his driving license are the complements of the verb show. And next, made her boss angry. Her boss and angry are the complements of the verb made. And in the last one, felt hungry. Hungry is the complement of the verb felt. Next, modifier. Phrases that can serve as modifier of a verb include a preposition phrase, an adverb phrase, and a noun phrase. For example, in the verb phrase, bought a car from a dealer is the modifier. In the verb phrase, read the letter carefully is the modifier. And in the verb phrase, visited her cousin yesterday is the modifier. Next, we are looking at adjective phrases. The head of an adjective phrase is the adjective. For example, tall, dark, cool, hot, mild, easy, fun, afraid, aware, dependent, and different. These are adjectives that are the heads of the adjective phrases. Next, complement. A phrase that can serve as complement of an adjective is a preposition phrase. For example, in the adjective phrase fond of animals, the preposition phrase of animals is the complement of the adjective fond. The same for afraid of the dark. The preposition phrase of the dark is the complement of the adjective afraid. Similarly, in adjective phrases like dependent on drugs and different from other students, on drug and from other students are complements of the adjective dependent and different, respectively. Next, modifiers. A phrase that can serve as a modifier of an adjective is an adverb phrase. For example, in the adjective phrases like very tall, really dark, quite young, fairly mild, comfortably cool, unusually hot, and surprisingly easy, the adverb phrases very, really, quite, fairly, comfortably, unusually, and surprisingly are the modifiers. Next, we are looking at adverb phrase. The head of an adverb phrase is the adverb. So, hard, fast, rarely, badly, recently, comfortably, unusually, surprisingly, independently, and differently are the heads of adverb phrases. Next, complement. A phrase that can serve as complement of an adverb is a preposition phrase. For example, in the adverb phrases like independently of the government is the preposition phrase serving as complement of the adverb independently. Similarly, in the adverb phrase differently from anyone else is the preposition phrase serving as complement of the adverb differently. Next, modifier. A phrase that can serve as a modifier of an adverb is also an adverb phrase. For example, in the adverb phrases like very hard, really fast, extremely badly, and quite easily, the modifiers are very, really, extremely, and quite. Next, we are looking at a preposition phrase or a PP. The head of a preposition phrase is the preposition. For example, after, before, and on are the heads of the preposition phrases. Next, complement. Phrases that can serve as complement of a preposition include a noun phrase. For example, after lunch, before Christmas, and across the road. Here, lunch, Christmas, and the road are the complements. A preposition phrase can also be a complement of a preposition. For example, out of the forest and until after lunch. Of the forest and after lunch are the complements of the preposition. Adjective phrases like private and good can also be complements. For example, in the phrases like in private and for good. Finally, an adverb phrase can also be a complement of a preposition. For example, since then. Finally, let's look at a modifier. A phrase that can serve as a modifier of a preposition is an adverb phrase. For example, in the phrases like shortly after lunch, just before Christmas, and straight across the road, the modifiers are shortly, just, and straight. To sum up, in this video we have discussed the internal structure of phrasal categories, specifically a noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrase, adverb phrase, and preposition phrase. I hope you find this video helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!